A UPS freighter aircraft has crashed in Kentucky. We have a lot of footage and a lot of interesting details that may give us a hint into what happened. But first, let's talk about the aircraft itself. It was a McDonnell Douglas MD-11 originally built in 1991 and delivered to Thai Airways. The plane was sold to UPS in 2006 and converted into a freighter aircraft. The MD-11 never saw much commercial success as a passenger aircraft, but many have found a second life as a commercial freighter. The MD-11 is based on the older, more successful DC-10 aircraft. However, it's not just a simple upgrade. Remember that fact for later. At approximately 5:15 local time, the plane departed Louisville, Kentucky, en route for Honolulu, Hawaii. At the time, the authorities say the plane was carrying upwards of 38,000 gallons of jet fuel. After takeoff, the plane failed to gain more than a couple hundred feet of altitude before plummeting back to the earth. As the plane descended, it rolled to the left, striking a UPS facility and a petroleum recycling plant. Immediately after the accident, authorities implemented a shelter-in-place order for the 5 miles around the accident site. With all this footage and all this data, we have some clues into what might have happened. But before we dig into that, we first need to understand some details about how large aircraft take off. As the plane thunders down the runway, pilots have several key speeds that they're keeping their eyes out for. The first speed they're looking for is V1. Before the plane reaches V1, the pilots may opt to abort the takeoff and stop the aircraft. After V1, the plane simply doesn't have the braking force to stop before the end of the runway. That means that the pilots are committed to taking off. If the plane suffers an engine out, they still continue the takeoff. Planes like the MD-11 are able to take off and climb with a single engine out. Once the plane reaches VR, or the rotation speed, the pilots pull back and fly away from the ground. Now back to the footage. The first interesting footage comes from a baggage truck showing the plane struggling to climb. But while you're looking at the Fireball, I'm looking at the other engine. The MD-11 is a tri-jet, meaning it has an engine on each wing and a third engine up on the tail. We can clearly see that the left-hand engine is on fire, but if you look very closely, you can see that tail-mounted engine having a compressor stall. With one failed engine, the plane would have climbed away, although it may have struggled. But with two failed engines, the plane was doomed. But that still begs the question, what happened to those engines? The answer to that might just be lying beside the runway. Since the accident, several photos of debris lying next to the runway have come out. One of those photos even includes the engine core itself. In the footage, that means the engine likely isn't on fire, but the engine has already fallen off the aircraft. The Fireball is probably being fed directly from the fuel tanks themselves. With the left engine failed, it could have kicked up debris into the tail-mounted engine, causing it to fail as well. But engines don't just fall off of airplanes, do they? Remember that the MD-11 was developed from the DC-10. In 1979, American Airlines Flight 191 crashed after having an engine fall off the airframe. That airplane was the DC-10. But that's really where the similarities end. Flight 191 was able to get airborne, but due to hydraulic failure on the left-hand wing, the slats retracted asymmetrically, causing the plane to roll to the left. Ultimately, the slats were redesigned to lock, so in the case of a hydraulic failure, they would no longer retract. But in both of these cases, the left-hand engine fell off. In Flight 191, they determined the cause was a structural failure in the engine pylon. Several months before the accident, they found that improper maintenance was being carried out on the engine and its pylon. Ultimately, that weakened the pylon and the engine eventually fell off. If we look at the flight history of the UPS plane, we can see a gap between September 3rd and October 18th of this year. During that time, the plane was in San Antonio, Texas. The nearest ADS-B location was at a maintenance facility that UPS uses to overhaul their aircraft and their engines. A few weeks and many flights have gone by since it left that facility, and a lot can happen in such a short period of time. But the other big question is whether or not the plane hit something on the runway. Unfortunately, runway incursions happen all the time. We've even covered some here on the channel. It's possible that the plane hit something after V1, causing the engine to rip off. The plane's manufacturer, McDonnell Douglas, merged with Boeing in 1997, making this technically a Boeing aircraft. Boeing will be assisting the FAA in the investigation. At the time of this recording, 7 people have been confirmed dead, 11 injured, and countless others are still missing. The plane only had 3 crew members, meaning at least 4 other people on the ground have died. Our thoughts are with their families.
Tower Air 30 looking. We need to get near the scene there and assess the situation. 3022 Air 30. 30 Roger. Can you give me aircraft type? And Stoll's on board. Do you have any of that? Or is it UPS? 30 Roger.